Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.
Good evening, and welcome to another segment of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Woodroe Thompson. My guest this evening worked as a telecommunications engineer, a marketing executive, and public relations for a telecommunications company called Cable and Wireless. He's presently the Consul General for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My guest this evening is Fitzgerald Huggins. Good evening, Mr. Huggins. How are you?
Good evening, Bishop Thompson. I'm very, very well, thank you. And thank you for having me on your program, Let's Talk.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, especially with what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
Before we get into that, I'm interested to understand how you made the transitions from telecommunications to being a consul general. How did that happen? Tell us about that.
Well, my work on the ground in St. Vincent has started as an engineer after leaving school and went to university. I did engineering and moved into the commercial side of the company and did a lot of marketing, and I was able to sort of modernize the way we do marketing and telecoms in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And when I retired from that job, I believe it's because of my advocacy and my work on the ground in communities that landed me this job after my retirement. I pondered over it for a while, and I said, you know what, let me give it a shot for a couple of years, and 8 years later, I'm still here.
Very good. Now, some folks may wonder, what's the role of a consul general? What's your role?
A consul general essentially represent the government of the day to address issues of consular issues relating to Vincentians living in the diaspora, in particular Canada, because we share dual citizenship with Canada, and there are people, Canadians, who are also Vincentians, or call them Vincentian Canadians, who still need consular services like passport, etc. Government documents. I would assist them in doing that. And you'll be amazed that people call you for even to inspire them or to give them hope or just to answer simple questions, just sort of backup support. And also a lot of our job is marketing and promoting our country as a destination, mainly as a place for business, and also a place for vacation, a place where you can go and invest. So we do a lot of work in getting investment into St. Vincent and the Grenadines as well.
Thank you. Now, you are Vincentian. Tell us a little bit about St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well, the main island is called St. Vincent, and we have 32 other small islands we call the Grenadines. The entire country, 150 square miles and 110,000 people. We call that country St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We were a colony of Britain, just like Canada. We are a democratic state. We have our constitution mainly based on the British Constitution, similar to the Canadian Constitution. So we have presently a government that was just elected in November. We have one man, one vote state. So we're very democratic, and so we basically were a colony of Britain, and I don't want to go too much into the history, but we are a country of mainly Africans, we were part of the slave trade, of course. We also have a very diverse population of Asians, Caucasian, African, etc., Caribs, and Garifuna, that sort of thing. Our
Okay.
capital is called Kingstown. We have one of the most diverse um, economies. We have basically tourism, agriculture based, and I don't know if there's anything that I left out that you want to particularly focus on.
No, I think you've
Nutshell,
covered quite
that is what St. Vincent and the Grenadines really is.
right. No, I think you've covered quite a bit for my viewers to get an understanding of what St. Vincent is like.
It's St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
Now, during COVID-19, when was the last time you were able to visit home? When was the last time you were back home?
I went back to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in November last year for the elections.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So I was at home while COVID was reaping havoc all over the world. And
Right. And so you have something else that's impacting St. Vincent and the Grenadines with the volcanic eruption. Tell us about that.
Well, presently, let me just do a background as to what took place since April the 9th.
Right.
And we have been experiencing since last September unusual occurrences, like tremors, etc., at the volcano, and it is monitored by the University of the West Indies Seismology Department in Trinidad and Tobago, and they have noticed there was heightened activities from last September, and in close monitoring, we kept monitoring it closely, and on April the 9th, we had our first volcanic eruption in
Right.
2021. Previously, we had an eruption on April the 13th, 1979. That's 42 years ago. The same year we got independence. And before that, we had some effusive eruptions in 1971. So, and before that, it was 1902. So, within 120 years span, thereabout, we've had mainly 3 volcanic eruptions, major eruptions. So, this particular eruption started on April the 9th, and the last explosive eruption we had on April the 22nd. So, at the moment, the volcano is still active. It's doing effusive eruptions, but that means it's effusing gases and so on. So it's still
Right.
very dangerous to go and visit. Still very dangerous to live in the zones that we call the danger zone because of the active nature of the volcano. For the period of the eruptions, we had 35 explosive eruptions, and these eruptions displaced over 21,000 people from
Wow.
what we call the red zone into the safe zones.
Right.
So I don't know if you want me to, do you want me to respond to questions, if you just want me to go straight into a presentation?
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask, the people who are displaced, is there any possibility that they'll be able to return?
Okay, so presently in the red zone, and I may just digress a bit to just give you an idea of who lived in the red zone.
Please.
Um, when when the island was colonized by the British, the British came to the island and met a group of natives called the Caribs,
Right.
and there was a standoff. There was a fight between the British and the Caribs. So there was a standoff, and eventually the British, with their might and power, won the war between the Caribs and the British. What they did as a penalty for the persons who led the insurrection was, what they did was banish them to an area called the Red Zone, which is on the plains of the volcano.
Wow.
The idea was for the gases, basically as a punishment,
Wow.
so that the any further eruptions would basically destroy them. So over the years, um, since that happened, well, let me just say that other punishment that they gave to the Caribs were that they they banished 5,000 of these Caribs to an island called Baliso. That's one of our Grenadine islands, and that island is basically just thorns and rocks and no water, no habitation at all. So that's one of the punishments. Most of those people died, and the people who remained from um, that action, they actually banished them to the Rotan Island in Honduras. So if you go to Honduras, you will find a lot of the inhabitants, the original inhabitants, called the Garifuna or the Caribs, as we call them, and they
Right.
will always claim that St. Vincent and the Grenadines or Hairuna is their
Mm.
homeland. So to come to the real issue now is that most of the people who were banished on these plains of the volcanoes to live there as a punishment, they're the ones who have developed their lives on the plains of the volcanoes
Wow.
and of the volcano, and they are the most impoverished and some of the most deprived people, and in the island. So they're the poorest set of people, so to speak. So, but over the last 40 or so years since the last eruption, they have lifted themselves up by the bootstraps and have now begun to own homes. Um, you find that doctors and lawyers and a lot of professional people, they became now part of the whole Vincentian society, where they become more respected. And now that they've been hit with this volcanic eruption, it's going to be a big setback, because most of them have lived by from farming the lands on the plains of the volcanoes, which is seen to be, which is known to be the most fertile part of the country as well. So a lot of these people who have been displaced are actually farmers, and they live mainly by farming the lands. So this devastation, where several feet of ashfall have actually fallen on their crops and destroy all their crops and destroy all the land. This
Wow.
devastation is have a quite big economic impact on their lives, where most of the farmers have no livelihood to go back to. Basically, their whole life has been torn apart, and and has to be rebuilt. So in the devastated area in the red zone, you have houses that are actually totally destroyed. If you see some pictures, and
Wow.
the UN agencies who have visited the area have actually called the devastation apocalyptic, and so far it's almost inhabitable in some of the areas in the red zone now that we've been seeing, and it's even now very dangerous to even venture into the red zone, even though there are not any explosive eruption taking place at the
Right.
moment, because of the roads have been cut off, bridges have been compromised because of the lahars, which are basically the mud flows that will come into the streams and destroy the roads, and because of the ash that on the plains of the volcanoes being washed into the valleys and causing that lahar movement of mud flow down the river to destroy the roads and etc.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us, because when we read and when we see pictures of what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we didn't understand all of that. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to continue in just a moment. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people. showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278 extension 233 or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm speaking with Mr. Fitzgerald Huggins, Consul General for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you alluded to the fact that there are other countries, Caribbean countries, that's been impacted. I read somewhere where I think it's Barbados that was covered in darkness when the volcano erupted. How many of the countries are impacted by this? And you mentioned that the ash. I saw pictures of this ash that covered different areas. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so mainly what happened is that we have the type of volcano that our volcano doesn't really throw lava like what you see in Iceland and those countries.
Right.
Yes. So what we had in our volcano was two massive domes from the last eruption. So with the explosion, we had this massive amount of ash that went into the at least up to, in some cases, up to 20,000 feet into the atmosphere.
Wow.
So yes, and along with the ash, so what happens is that with that amount of ash being spewed that far up into the atmosphere,
Right.
it has to come down, and when it coming
Right.
back down, it will meet wind somewhere on its way back down, and that wind will blow it across to Barbados, St. Lucia, as far as Grenada. Now,
Wow.
also with that ash, you would find a lot of sulfur dioxide, and sulfur dioxide was measured from the old volcano, was measured across 3 continents as far over as India.
India.
Yes. And
Wow.
in some cases, the scientists have actually predicted that this sulfur dioxide make of certain quantities of it may cause difference in a lowering of the temperature across the world. So even with the explosion of a volcano, you may still find later on in life that you'll find the temperatures might get colder, and
Right.
that could be attributed to our eruptions. I hope not, because it's as cold as it is in Canada. I don't expect it to be much colder.
It must be difficult for the government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What are some of the steps you're taking to deal with this crisis?
Well, I have to also say the difficulty started with COVID.
Right.
And with the economies across the world being shut down as a result of COVID.
Right.
And then we had an outbreak of dengue fever. And then we had the volcanic eruptions, and then very soon in the next couple of days our official hurricane season will start. So it's no respite.
Wow.
We go from one disaster into hopefully not another potential disaster, because
Right.
there's a prediction that the hurricane season may be quite active, and with the amount of ashfall that's sitting on the plains of the mountains, and the prediction is that with the amount of rain that associated with hurricanes, we're still in quite a danger of having a lot of mud flows and lahars and being dangerous to lives and livelihood. So the government has a task on its hand to first get COVID under control.
Right.
Secondly, to have the economy restructured to address the fallouts of COVID, and also to get enough funding to start the recovery and the rebuilding phase as a result of the volcanic eruptions. Now, the government has because if you know St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are now we are the smallest country ever to be in the United Nations Security Council.
Right.
We are members of the United Nations Security Council right now, the smallest country ever in the history of the world to be on that body. And through our membership of the UN, we have asked the UN agency to raise money, and they've set up a fund to raise $27 million US to help in the
Right.
recovery process. But that's just a drop in the bucket, because I the predictions are that our GDP, which is about 2 billion EC dollars, would be, well, because of these eruptions, would be set back by over 40% of our GDP because of these eruptions, plus COVID.
Right.
So we will definitely be on the hunt for investment, and also for rebuilding our economy and rebuilding our country. And that is what is engaged. The government is engaged in now, planning for the rebuilding process.
Right. And I know that sounds like a massive effort, but I want to ask, we have a few churches in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have been getting our people together to ensure that we do our part. But what are some of the basic necessities? If you were to think about some of the basic necessities, the basic needs that people do have now, share with our viewers some of the basic needs that you do have.
Well, that's a very good question, because remember I told you I started my life as a scientist, so
Right.
I always like to think about solutions and not have too much on the problems, right?
Right.
So every day I wake, every day I rise, the first thing I do is give thanks to the Lord for giving me the strength to see another day. And since the eruption started, I start to project my mind 6 weeks from the day I rise.
Right.
Because the reason for that is that if we are shipping things to St. Vincent to help with the recovery, it takes generally 4 to 6 weeks for it to actually impact the people on the ground. So
Wow.
if we drop a stake in the ground and say, as of today, what do you need in St. Vincent? I want to project our mind 6 weeks down the road. What is required right now?
Right.
We are engaged in cleaning the country.
Right.
So the cleaning is very, very important. And I've
Wow.
been trying to get my diasporans to think about what is required for cleaning. We need things like, because the amount of ashfall, we need things like power washing machines, wet dry vacuum cleaners, um, sheets for homes that have been damaged, people moving
Oh,
back into homes, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizers,
right.
stuff to clean. It was just basically to get houses clean, right? So if you could think about anything that would impact the household and also the community, because we don't want to clean a yard and the next yard next door is dirty, because ash is light, and once it blows around, it will dirty the house, the yard that was just clean. So we want to focus on the cleaning.
Right.
Also, the rebuilding of homes that were destroyed. Some homes are totally destroyed. If people are to move back into those areas, they will need to rebuild those homes. If they are displaced, if they are going to be relocated, they will need to rebuild homes for people. So we have to start thinking about building supplies as well. Um, Also, the farmers who have been
Mm,
displaced, they will have
right.
to start back their lives, because those farmers will have to replant, and we're looking at seeds like for short crops. I'm thinking like tomatoes and cucumbers and pumpkins, those short crops, so that these farmers could get some earnings within the next 3 months or so, so that they
Right.
could prepare for the long crops like bananas and plantains, which take 8 to 9 months to bear and to be productive. So I'm trying to get the diasporans who want to contribute to think in that fashion. Let's think
Right.
about cleaning. Let's think about farmers, rehabilitating the farmers. Let's think about rebuilding the houses, and let's
Right.
think about the school children who have been displaced. How do
Wow.
we get those kids
Mhm.
back into the mainstream learning, whether it's through the internet or through face-to-face learning? Because as I told you, these children are kids of farmers, and if the farmers don't have revenue, the kids will suffer
Right.
because they can't get school supplies to put them back into school. And people from the green zone, which are the more well-off persons, you will find that their kids would have a definite advantage over these kids from these impoverished areas. So I just want us to think along those lines as to how we
Right.
can address
Thank.
those issues that would affect the people.
Very good. Now, we have people who call this office, call our churches, want to know how they can ship barrels to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, how they can send their monetary gifts. Is there any, and we have told them that they would need to find other resources to do that. But do you have any resource you could share with our folks as to if they want to ship barrels, they want to send their donations, how would they do that?
Okay, so we have a group called Carry On, and we have several diaspora groups here, and we have assigned Carry On the responsibility to coordinate.
Carry on.
Carry
Okay.
On. I will
Okay.
share the link with you, so you can share it
Very
on
good.
the website. How to donate, and so you can follow up later on and put a tag on your website how to donate.
Will do.
Yes.
Right.
So Carry On is the one coordinating in a conjunction with the consulate and all the other groups, diaspora groups. I have to say thanks to the persons who have responded to the initial needs of food
Right.
and water and all that stuff, clothing. That response is tremendous. But going forward, we could
Correct.
either donate cash. You can go to a GoFundMe page. It's organized by Carry On and Hayden Jones. So if you go on GoFundMe, you can donate via GoFundMe. That's the only GoFundMe. That's the only GoFundMe account that we have approved at the consulate and on behalf of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So you can donate via that means. You can also donate money directly to the government. I'll share this information with you as well, so you can
Right.
put the tag on your website. And if you want to ship barrels, if you're shipping to NEMO, which is the National Emergency Management Office, because I represent the government here. NEMO is a government institution, and they have asked that we ship everything to NEMO, but it doesn't say that you cannot ship to an individual. Now, we have a good relationship with a shipping company called KLC Shippers. It's on
Right.
Tifffield Road, Scarborough. I can share that with you as well, where you can do drop-offs, where you can do, and we have also work out a very good rate for persons who want to ship relief efforts to their family. All you do is write the name of the person on the barrel and put volcano relief, and we can arrange a special discount to the shipping company so that you can get your items shipped very easily and cheaply to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well, I am so thankful for this information. My time is almost up. I think I have just over a minute left. But just take a few seconds and give an appeal to our viewers because St. Vincent and the Grenadines is in a desperate position. Just give a quick challenge to our viewers.
Yeah, yeah. What is the most unnerving part of this disaster is that we don't know when it will end
Right.
because the volcano is still very, very active. We don't know if we'll have um, a new set of eruptions that will keep
Right.
our people further displaced. Presently, the persons displaced have been asked to move back into the safer zone, but the red zone is still off limits, so
Right.
persons will be in shelter for quite a while. We are also going to be faced with a hurricane season. We don't know what the predictions are and how devastating that might be. So we are
Right.
in quite a precarious position. We need as much help as possible for as long as possible. So we are depending on persons here on this medium who are listening to my appeal to please consider us in your prayers first of all. And while you in the spirit of giving, give generously because we'll need your help for quite a while. As I always say, today is for you, tomorrow is for me. We are living in a part of the world that is quite vulnerable to all of these shocks, whether this is hurricanes or volcanoes or COVID, and we are always very heavily impacted. You know, as they say, when North America sneeze, we catch the cold maybe 6 months later.
Right,
That's
right.
so we will be impacted for a while. We are asking as again to keep us in your prayers, and whatever you intend to give, please keep us in your prayers and give generously, because we depend on your help. Today for you, today for me, tomorrow could be your turn, and we will
Okay.
always be here to support you in your time of need. This is our time. Please help us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Huggins, for joining us from the Consul General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's all the time that we have for Let's Talk. You've heard Mr. Huggins share with us the great need that they have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If you haven't given this yet, we'd like to encourage you to give. If you have given, we'd like to thank you for your gifts. And if you can give some more, that would be great. Remember to subscribe on our YouTube page. Again, we'd love to hear from you. We also appreciate your financial support. That's all the time that we have for this evening. Let's keep talking. God bless you.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.